listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Ken Erskine. Ken is a highly experienced professional with over 30 plus years of bidding experience in major buildings and infrastructure programs across the UK. Having successfully won in excess of £25 billion of bids over his career, Ken is a keen advocate of the APMP and is a champion of promoting industry best practice. He previously served on the APMP UK Board for 10 years and on the International Board for 2 years. His roles included 6 tenures, as UK Conference Director and 2 tenures as APMP Chairs 2010 and 2014. Welcome, Ken, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Definitely, Ken, definitely. Ken, 30 plus years, but let's go back to the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your high school and education.
Yeah, hopefully you can probably tell from my accent. I was born in Strabane, which is a small town and a border town in Northern Ireland. Spent my early years. Grew up in what was probably the hotbed of the Troubles, which provided an interesting start to life, and probably shaped the person that I've become. But Strabane was probably renowned for not necessarily all the right things. I think at one point it was hitting the news for 200 bombs in 4 years, but equally as voted as the 3rd worst place to live in the UK. So, but a lovely town, and a town I'm very proud to come from, despite all the reputation.
Yes. So when did you emigrate from Ireland to UK, Ken?
I left Ireland. I left home at the age of 21. Came to London. I left. I didn't go to university. I spent my early years following from grammar school and went into followed the route for an OND in building construction and HNC. Did some work in an architect's office back in Strabane, and then decided that London was the place to be. So the ripe old age of 21, moved to London and have stayed here ever since.
Wow, that's a brave decision. At 21, did you had plans, or did you did some groundwork before you move in, or you just decided one fine day I'm going to go there and bring my whole career out of it?
I think I got to the point of being back home where I didn't see too much of a future. There weren't many jobs around, and the rest of my family. I was the youngest, so the rest of my family had already moved away, or moved away from Strabane, and I thought, no, time is to move on and see the world, and not to stay in the same town I grew up in.
Wow. So what was the first role that you took, first job that you had in London when you came here?
Well, the first job I had was with a contractor, and it was working in their design office, which was in Brentford, and that was back in 1987. And I stayed with that company for 21 years, so I must have enjoyed it.
Wow, 21 years with the company, that too in 1986 onwards. How did you see the construction and the infrastructure in London changing over the 21 years? I'm sure there were some interesting projects that you worked, right? Is there anything memorable that comes up in your mind in the 21 years with that company?
Yeah, I'm working for a company called Molam, who unfortunately don't exist anymore, but they were a large construction company, and they had a revenue of sort of a couple of £1 billion a year. But they did an awful lot of big office blocks in London, but also did a lot of fantastic restoration projects. So I think probably one of the one of the restoration projects I'm most proud of being involved in the bidding process for was the Albert Memorial, which just sits outside the Albert Hall. And to kind of get involved in doing bids for major restorations, which involve, fantastic craftsmanship. And, every time I walk past it now, I kind of know all the details about the gold gilding that surrounds Albert himself, and even have the envious story of sitting on Albert's head, which, if you've ever seen the Albert Memorial, you'd look at it and you go, wow, how did anybody ever manage to sit on his head?
That's amazing. So 21 years with that company, and was the next move to Balfour Beatty, was it, or you had some stints in between?
I spent 7 years, the 21 years with Balfour Beatty, and 21 years with Molam, and in the last 3 years of that was Molam was under a different ownership, and where Carillion had bought the company. I stayed through the acquisition, which was an interesting time. And then in 2008, I made the move to another family-owned company, John Sisk, which was an Irish company, but working in their UK operations. And that was interesting because that was sort of moving to them to help them move into a major projects focus. So to kind of use the experience that I had developed through PFI procurement and BSF, Building Schools for the Future, to help them move into that market. So I stayed there for 7 years and a great time with them, and then eventually moved to Balfour Beatty's in 2016.
Wow, Balfour Beatty, that brand, I think everybody knows Balfour Beatty in the construction world. Yeah. Balfour Beatty, construction, infrastructure. How did the shift to APMP happen? When did you come to be aware of APMP, and when did you join APMP as a member?
So I was quite early in my career. I think it goes back to my Molam days. So I was fortunate enough to be working with one of the consultants we were using on a bid, told me about the APMP and suggested that I should have a look at it, and he invited me to one of the conferences, and it was immediately after the conference I thought, actually, this is a fantastic thing to be involved with, because up until then my experience in the proposals and bidding world had been very much you sow your own path, and that to actually find there were a lot of other people out there that were doing the same thing, and trying to find their own way, and recognizing that it was not a recognized career. So to see an organization that was trying to do that and to identify best practice, I thought was a fantastic thing. So I joined in 2005, and have obviously been a member ever since, and a keen advocate of what the APMP stands for.
Wow, 2009, that's like 11 years ago. So you were one of the very early members of APMP, Ken. How did you see the body evolved from 2009 onwards, and when did you decide to be part of the board? And let us talk us through your APMP board journey. So
I got involved in the I suppose the first thing I did was to begin the accreditation process. The certification. So I started doing my professional certification coming through 2007, did my foundation, followed up immediately a year later with the practitioner, and then for some reason took 5 years before I joined before I got accredited as a professional. And I think that was a commitment I'd made to myself as a CEO. I thought it's not right to be a CEO and not to have the highest level of certification. So I made that join then. But I think I joined the board round about 2007. So 2 years after I joined the association, joined the board, and then quickly kind of got involved in running conferences and things like that, which I as you mentioned in the introduction, I think I was the conference director for around about six years at various stages.
Wow, conference director certification. So what it takes to run a conference for APMP, Ken, because this is a voluntary body, right? Unlike other conferences, we don't have big budgets, we don't have big teams. How was it for you to run conference just as using the voluntary time? Any interesting experiences?
For me, it was a fantastic privilege to run a conference, to stitch together, 2 days, and that it became 3 days eventually, of speakers, or to run the awards dinner. It takes a huge amount of organisation, but actually, when you run an event that's successful, and for people who are there through choice because they want to learn, and they became a network of friends, really. Certainly, in the early days when it was a much smaller organisation, it was a very close-knit community. So for me, yes, it was hard work, and yes, it took a lot of organisation, and yes, every year you wanted to be bigger and better than the last. So, but there was always that drive, and I think being a bid manager or being a bid director, you've always got that kind of competitive edge where you always want to improve, you always want to take it to the next level. So doing conference was a bit like that for me, really. We always wanted more people than the last time. We wanted better speakers. We'd go for bigger and bigger keynote speakers, and the wow factor that came out of it, the adrenaline rush you get was, I suppose it was like running a successful bid at the end of it. So yes, it was hard work, but very, very enjoyable and very, very rewarding.
Wow. And did you had any prior experiences of running conferences, events like this before you took up this role?
Certainly not a conference, but I think given the position of proposals and bid management in organisations, you tended to be the central focal point for all presentations. So I was running staff conferences and things like that for the businesses I was working in, obviously on a much smaller scale, but the same kind of organisational skills around checking the AV, the speakers, the timing, the turning up, the practices, what's your backup plans, what if something goes wrong, it's the same kind of skills. So I think it just evolved as you go through life, and you take your lessons from one point, and you bring them, and you use them as you move forward. Always learning, always improving, and always changing things.
Wow, it's super inspirational, Ken. I think if you kind of listen back to what you said just now, you always strive for that little improvements in everything that you do, and you're a keen learner. I think that's an important message that I think listeners should take away from here. I mean, I'm glad when 30 plus years, you're still in that zone of, I want to learn more and I want to do more. That's inspirational. And that's it. I'm quite super privileged even to have you as one of the UK 2020 awards as well, right? You're going to chair as one of the award panel.
Indeed, yes. I will be a judge on the panel. And, I think those are fantastic, because as a judge, you're in a privileged position to get to read and assess some of the brilliant achievements that people have created for the organisations that they live in and that they work in, and that is a privileged position, because you get to see the difference that people make, and I think you can see that people's drivers are always, how do I do something better? How do I improve what was there before? And there's so much learning. I think there's probably two of the speakers, when I was organising conferences, there was two of the speakers that stood out in my mind, and I always have their learning with me, because it never changes. One of those was David Magliano, and right. David Magliano ran the Olympics bid for the UK, the 2012.
Yes.
And to hear his stories and his drive and what motivated him and the things that he took into consideration in the bid, and how he kind of focused on the customer, focused on the markers, and the lengths you go to get a message across. I think, when you listen to people like that who've run some of the best bids that go globally, you can't feel but be inspired and to learn from. Another one probably equally is Clive Woodward as the in his role at the England RFU, and how they use data to just get that kind of step change, that sort of the improvement by inch. You wouldn't by an inch, you wouldn't by a mile. So you're looking for the incremental improvements. And I think if you can carry those learnings through with you and you apply that on every bid that you do, you'll never go far wrong.
Wow, a lot of key points there, Ken. A lot of key points there. Also, let's go back to APMP before we close that. So 10, 15 years with the APMP UK Board. When did you move on to also support the international board, Ken?
That was back in 2015, I think, from memory.
Yes.
So I spent 2 years on, I think it was 15 and 16 that I spent on after I'd finished my second tenure as CEO. I went on to the international board and working with Rick Harris, again an inspiration to the association, and he's done so much to bring the association to where it is today. So people like that will always attract you to an organisation and to get in and to get involved.
Yes, totally, Ken. So during your time as part of the APMP UK Board, or during the time of part of APMP International Board, any contributions or any board members or any interesting things comes to your mind?
I think with the APMP and with the people that you come across, there've been a vast number of people that have been that are selfless. I think people who have gone beyond any kind of normal contributions and have done it for no reason other than to give back to the profession. There's a couple of people that stand out in my mind, and Frances Campbell was one, unfortunately no longer with us, but her passion for the association and for best practice were phenomenal. Nick Adams is another person who stands out has for years and years and he's been one of the people you've interviewed on this series. But again, an inspiration to many who and he's a practitioner. He's not a consultant. He's not got anything to gain other than to share what he's learned along the way.
Yep.
And I think people like that I find inspirational. People who are just giving because that's what they do, that's what they want to do, it's the right thing to do, and to encourage new people into the industry to make it a better place.
Wow. Totally, Ken, totally. So APMP career and also very successful career at your construction infrastructure type of projects as well, Ken. Any memorable proposal effort that comes in your mind?
There will always be memorable proposals. Some for the right reasons and some for the wrong reasons.
100%.
I think there are proposals that I'm proud of, like the Albert Memorial that I referred to earlier. There are proposals that were on such a massive scale that I wouldn't even want to try and repeat them today. I think one that stands out was for a military development. It was a private finance project, right. And it was memorable for a number of reasons. One was it was literally 10 years between filling out and responding to the overdue notice through to when we finally signed the contract. And a 10-year kind of procurement exercise, and one I was proud to kind of have been involved with all the way through, even though we changed ownership of a company as we progressed through the acquisition. But that bid was, and it goes back to a not very environmentally friendly situation now, but the bid involved 69 volumes of information, and we printed 15 copies of it. And we ended up having it delivered to the client, and we required 2 Luton vans to deliver the thing. So for scale and size, definitely memorable, and also, you know, it helps when you win these things. So to win it, you look back with a smile on your face and go, "Yep, that was definitely worth the effort." Probably the other one which was the other extreme, and in terms of a bid that became memorable, and it was memorable for all the wrong reasons, and that was a bid which ended up being submitted over the Christmas period, and we had the full bid team in the office, and we saw the new year in the office trying to finalise the bid, which had been submitted on the 2nd of January.
Yeah.
So not very popular with the family for that one. But and equally, despite winning the job got cancelled, so we never got to deliver it.
Oh, no.
So yeah, we have our memories, good and bad. The one thing's for sure is you learn from them all.
Wow, so 100%, Ken. Wow, those are amazing, especially what you told about the second one. Oh my God, after all the effort, when it got cancelled, it's the same. Even I had a similar experience, but not in the big scale as what you have done. And after a very long time, there was a PFI project which I bid in one for Serco, and there was a political change. And that was the first time we had the SNP won the elections in Scotland. And the first policy decision they made is stop outsourcing. And we were about to start like a week later, but there was a change in leadership and all canned. So yeah, it was heartbreaking.
Those are the ones that are quite hard to take, aren't they? It's you talk about skill, but to me, the value of a contract kind of is irrelevant, because it's about making the change, making a difference for your business. Yes. It's winning things that give you a step change, and you know, for me, doing whether the bid's a relatively small bid in millions or in the hundreds of millions or billions, that the challenges are always the same.
Yes, well said, Ken.
The number of zeros doesn't make that much difference.
100%. I think that's beautifully said, Ken. We talked about your career a little bit, and we also talked about APMP, Ken. Maybe let's spend a little bit more time on you. So what are the 3 things not many people know about you?
3 things that people don't know about me. There's something that's interesting. What would I go for? I think probably the first thing was, I'm not sure I'm very proud of this, but I've been on TV 3 times.
Oh.
You say, oh, not really. The truth of it was, I was less than 10, between sort of 8 and 10. And my family were a big church family. Wow. And my appearances on TV were limited to 3 appearances in songs of praise.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah.
A second thing, let's see, probably I've once dated a model who appeared in The Sun, a page 3 girl in The Sun. The unfortunate side to that, it was around about 30 years after she had appeared in the paper. So it sounds good until, oh no, she was in her 50s and I was in my 50s at the time. So, and this is a third thing. Let me think. What have we got? I can't think of anything else that's that interesting.
No,
no. I'm going to leave you with 2.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, church prayers, was it always a family thing to go to church every Sunday and
I probably haven't been in a church for well, apart from weddings and funerals, since my teens, but certainly I was brought up in a very religious upbringing. My parents were quite religious, and we usually twice or three times on a Sunday we would have been in a church. So I think it probably it didn't do me any harm in my upbringing, but it's not something that I've followed through into adulthood, really.
Okay, sure. Do you have any interesting childhood memories from your time in Northern Ireland?
I think we have. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many of them are repeatable. Some fantastic memories. I think if we look back now at the freedom we had as children in those days, when we left the home, we left our house on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and you appear back for lunch, and you disappear, and you appear back for tea, and nobody knows where you are in between, and no way of contacting anybody. Mm-hmm. I think if in today's world, that kind of freedom is not available anymore, and it's probably not appropriate. I think the scrapes that we got ourselves into you'd probably have cruelty to children would probably be somewhere around in today's climate, but it was a different world that we grew up in. I think that was quite, it was fulfilling, and I guess it shaped the way we became in later life. I think we probably, again, growing up in the town that I grew up in, we probably had a few scrapes that are lucky to be here, really. I think probably one of those when I was 17, 18, and heading towards a pub where I probably wouldn't have been, and certainly wouldn't have told my parents I was going. And the pub that I was on my way, I was about 2 minutes away from it, and a bomb blew up outside it.
Wow.
And I luckily was just round a corner from the pub, and the guy that jumped out of the van that the bomb was in and shouted, I'll not use the words that he used, but he shouted a warning, and I ran one way, he ran the other way, and the thing exploded within seconds, and it blew down the front wall of the pub I was on my way to. So, I'll always kind of look back and think, maybe things could have been very different, but they weren't. We survived them, and we grow as a result.
Wow, yes, Ken, from where you are to where you are now, inspiring people. It's so amazing. Okay, let's also touch the other part which you mentioned, dating a model. How did that begin? How was that? Did you realize it? Or?
No, I was divorced. I was divorced at the time. I was in a single phase of my life, and kind of it was we met in a music venue, and clicked straight away, really, and we dated for probably 2 or 3 months, and then went our separate ways. And I hadn't realised until probably a month into it. I saw a photo in her house, and I was like, "What's that?" She said, "Oh, yeah, no, that was taken whenever I was a model back in her. I suppose she would have been 19 or 20 when she had been the model, and we were, I say, probably on our late 40s when we met. So, but I just thought it was one for the books that I dated a model, even if it was a long time after the event.
That's good. So yeah, it's as you always say, it's all experience, and it's so many things.
Absolutely.
For any hobbies and interests, Ken, that you do outside work?
Nothing that I'm very good at, but I play a little bit of sport. If it hadn't been for lockdown, I would be playing more. So I play golf, and probably get more steps in than most people going around a golf course, as my drives are not the straightest, so I tend to go left, right. But I get around the course. I enjoy it. It's good. I play a little bit of tennis, a little bit of badminton, and I suppose the only other thing I get involved in is I've now recently become the treasurer for a residents association for the community that we live in. and just getting involved in organising and helping on that front in terms of just trying to make a better community to live in.
Wow. And were you always a sports person, Ken, or is it something that you picked up after?
I've always enjoyed sort of team sports. I'm not kind of say team, but not really, sort of small time sports. I played cricket and football and rugby at school, but I was always pretty useless. So never made any great achievements on there. And I sort of found then that sort of the individual, whether it was the golf or badminton, tennis, were more akin to something I could do. And I think all the sports I've picked are sports that you can enjoy at any level.
Yeah.
So which helps.
Definitely. And I think the important thing is, you are just enjoying yourself. You are just learning something new all the time. Regardless whether, we could be perfect in everything what we do, but end of the day, at least, we want to try, get new experiences. But I'm actually a bit jealous of you. That's quite nice.
It's all, but it's what you enjoy doing, not necessarily how good you are at it on the sports front, I think. Yeah.
Well said, Ken. Well said. So let's officially enter Nutters round. It used to be the rapid random fire questions. Now, in honor of Howard Nutt, we changed it to Nutters round now. So random questions, Ken. You ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
What is the nickname that your friends have given you, and what does it mean?
I probably haven't had a nickname since I was at school, but there were all sorts of names, some of them which are, bearing in mind my name's Erskine, there's some of them are repeatable and some of them that aren't, but probably the common one in primary school would have been Erskine.
Erskine, oh, nice. So, if you could have been told one thing that you weren't told when you were a teenager, what would you like to have heard?
I think it would probably to throw yourself. Actually, no. I think the one thing I'd want to have known is actually to have confidence in yourself and have belief in yourself at an earlier age. And I think a lot of people go through life in the early age and they're lacking confidence. I think that's changing with the newer generation, but certainly in my day, it wasn't uncommon to lack confidence and belief in yourself. Yeah. And I think that's probably the one lesson that I would have liked to have heard earlier, that I would have liked to have adopted earlier, is to trust in your gut and believe in yourself.
So true, so true. Do you scream on roller coasters or do you lift up your hands and enjoy?
Oh, I lift up my hands and I love it. I enjoy it. Give me a roller coaster any day of the week, and I would absolutely love it. I do like the white knuckle rides. Oh. The only thing that age has changed is I can't do any of the spinny things anymore. But speed and drops, absolutely.
Oh wow! So when do you remember your very first roller coaster experience or any memorable roller coaster experience?
I've done a few now. Probably my first one would have been, and again, unfortunately, only people from Northern Ireland would recognise this one. Was in Barry's in Portrush, and what they called a Big Dipper. I think if you put that anywhere now in the world, it would be a pretty small mini dipper, but in our world, that was it was massive. I think until you begin to go to America and you look at some of the rides there, or even the ones now in the UK, they're obviously massively bigger and more rushes. So yeah.
Got you. So what's the most courageous thing that you have ever done in your life?
Oh, the most courageous thing. I don't know actually. You do lots of things in your life that require courage, whether that's changing jobs, moving to a new place, getting married. I don't know, because I kind of I'm open to anything. Normally, someone's going to have to stop me from partaking in something. Actually, probably maybe not brave, but probably stupid. It would be. I think last year we'd gone on holiday with my wife, and I'd seen the jet skis, and I thought I fancy doing the jet skis. And kind of going out onto the ocean on the jet skis, which doesn't sound that brave until you realise that I can't swim.
Right.
So I'm quite happy sitting out in the middle of an ocean on a jet ski, hoping that I'm not stupid enough to fall over, because I ain't going to get back up again. Wow. I will swim the depth of any ocean or the depth of any swimming pool, but not the width of it, not the length of it.
Oh, that's a really courageous thing. Yes, I think
stupid. I think.
Yes.
Stupid.
Because if you listen to Mike Walsh, our current chair, APMP chair's episode, Mike used to swim in the oceans because he used to be part of the Navy thing. And for me, I was joking with him, I can swim as long as my foot touches the ground.
I did the same. I did it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty, that's really brave. So if you had to be a teacher of something, what would you teach?
It would have to be what I've lived my life doing, and it would have to be around bids. It's the only thing I think anybody would listen to me on.
Wow.
So it would be about bidding and about bravery and about being different. Always look for a different path, always look for a different way.
So if a genie granted you 3 wishes, what wish would you ask the genie for?
There's got to be something around. There's got to be something around an end to COVID. I think we're all getting close to the end of our tether on that front, and the challenges that throws up. The second one would be probably around peace, whether that's in and kind of a lasting solution to the problems in Northern Ireland, and kind of expand, just to accelerate that journey to where everybody can live together in a harmony. And probably the third wish, I'll be greedy with that and want to go on a world tour that takes me to some of the fantastic bits of the world that I've not had a chance to get to yet, whether that's Canada, New Zealand, lots and lots of bits of the world that I'd love to see and love to have the chance to kind of take time to enjoy.
Wow, those are nice.
So that's my 3 wishes: 2 for the greater good and one purely for me.
100%. I think even travel brings you different experience, and I'm sure you will touch a lot of people there as well, Ken. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What will you do if you have a time machine?
Oh, I would probably. I have I only got one journey?
Yeah.
If I've only got one journey, I would probably go back and relive my childhood in years and learn to appreciate some more of the things that I took for granted.
Wow.
I think to go back through teenage years and have the knowledge of having been there already, I think that would be a fantastic thing to do.
Totally, Ken. So what's something that you have tried that you will never, ever try again?
Swimming.
Good.
Yeah, it's not for me. My body does not want to swim. My arms, my legs will not coordinate in the right way to keep me afloat.
Okay. So what's your favorite dish that you say that I am an expert in cooking this?
I do like my cooking, and I'm kind of quite renowned for my Sunday roasts.
Oh, nice.
My roast potatoes and my Yorkshire puddings and things like that. So that's probably what the family would recognise me for doing, and they will issue their orders on what to do for a Sunday roast when they come round. They're growing up now, but when they come round, they do make their demands on the Sunday roast front.
Nice.
That's probably my go-to.
Got you. So what's the plan this Sunday again, Ken? Where is home? I'm coming right there. Oh, wow, it's amazing. Sunday roast, wow, it's brilliant. So what would your family say about you? Let's say, what would your wife say about you if I asked for a reference about Ken?
I think she would say I'm probably one of the most disorganized, lack of planning individuals she's ever come across. She can never quite get over my kind of desire that nothing should be planned for the weekends. Just let it unfold. Let's see how things happen. And I think it's probably because I'm so organized in a work front that when it comes to home life, I kind of quite like it to be a bit chaotic and kind of just to go with the flow. And so I think that's probably what she would say to me. And whether it's going on road trips and then suddenly diving off down some road that's not on a map or something like that, she would kind of go. She would pull her hair out because she's the opposite. She likes to see every little detail planned in advance, and exactly what time someone coming round at, and what are we going to be doing, and what time are we doing this at. So we're polar opposites on that front.
Totally. I think I will wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I think every partner will say that same thing if you're married to a bid and proposal professional, because we are spending so much time in planning, doing everything. All we need when we come back home is no plans, So
exactly
that's why the last question when somebody asks me is, do you have any plans for this weekend? I just stare at them like, what are you talking about? I don't want to. That's what you think. But when you go home, everything is already structured for you. And then your weekend tends to be much more busier than your weekday.
Yeah, I think we're quite like-minded on that front then.
Yes, totally. I think everybody, I'm sure, listening to this will be nodding your head. Perfect. Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
I think growing up, I was, my parents were certainly influential in respect of, we grew up in we had a village shop and post office. My dad had a bread van which he took around the neighbourhood, and being part of a large family, the work ethic that was instilled in us from when we could walk, whether that was working in the shop, stacking the shop, or as we grew older, out driving the vans and things like that. So I think we did work hard as children, and all of us did, and I think that work ethic is something that has never left. As when you get involved in something, you give yourself 100% to it and more. And for that, I think I will always be grateful to my parents to have instilled that, because it has served us well. I think in my career, there's lots of people in a work environment who have shaped, challenged, encouraged, cajoled, and I'm not sure whether to pick any of them out, but that, I can think of half a dozen people that have probably helped me grow in my career. And to encourage you, and when times are bad or times are good, to help you celebrate the success and get over the losses quickly and move on.
Yeah.
So
That's brilliant, Ken. So, who's the kindest person you know?
Lots of people. I think that having come out, particularly if you look back over the COVID world, and you look around you, there's lots of opportunity to be negative, but actually, if you open your eyes and you look, the number of people doing kind deeds and gestures, looking after neighbours, it's just immense. My dad's 95 now. He still lives in his own house and on his own, and that's down to a number of superb, kind neighbours who pop in and see him numerous times during the day. And the world we live in is full of people like that, but full of people who go out of their way. Yeah. So whether it's on a personal level or on a man who passed away earlier this year, John Hume, renowned across Northern Ireland for reaching out and showing empathy and kindness, no matter what someone's political bias was, to finding common ground. And that kindness just exudes from people like that. And I think when you look and you see those people, and you see people seeing glasses half full and looking for the good bits, it's inspiring, really. And it's something that I think it's something we should all aim towards, because it's too easy to sit in an armchair and be critical of things and to see the bad stuff, and the news is full of it.
Yes.
But actually, there's probably about 10 times more good stuff than there is bad stuff.
Well said, Ken. Well said. So, what's one kind or thoughtful thing someone did to you recently or in your life?
Probably recently, I would say up until early this year, I'd been lucky enough to be working at Heathrow. Right. And was kind of focused on the expansion that was planned, whether it was the runway move in the M25, huge opportunity. I mean, that was a capital spend program for about 14 billion pounds, and to be involved in kind of planning and capture planning and positioning for an opportunity like that. And two things came along: the judicial review, which kind of put everybody on their knees for a few weeks, and then quickly followed by COVID, which meant Heathrow was very much on the expansion was very much on the back burner. I got furloughed as a result, because there wasn't going to be anything there to do. But my bosses at Heathrow, within a week, had been on the phone to numerous individuals in the company seeking opportunities that I could get involved with. So with all of the challenges that everybody faced, I was lucky enough to come back off furlough within 3 weeks, and to be involved and working on a new major scheme up in the Midlands, and yet they didn't have to do that. They had themselves to look after as well. So again, that's just examples of people looking beyond themselves and reached out and real act of kindness and to find opportunities for other people. And for that, I'll always be grateful. And I've got the excitement now of working on a fantastic opportunity, and extremely happy in what I do.
Well, Ken, I think that's it, because you have a big heart, and I'm sure people who you have touched, it's always going to come back in at some point. That is amazing that you have been looked after by your company. I think that's unfortunate situation where we are in. The economic impact of COVID on a day-to-day basis is kind of, impacting so many people's lives. So yeah, it's tough. So it's tough. What's the one thing you wish you had known when you began your career?
Probably the one lesson that's taken me too long to learn was to seek challenge, to invite it and to welcome it.
Yeah.
That, when you're in the middle of doing a bid or in the beginning, you're working through your win strategies, you're working through stuff, and you think, oh, I've got this. But actually, the more you can reach out and the more you can challenge or get people to challenge you every step of the way, the better the outcome's going to be. And if you carry that into all aspects of life, don't just take this for granted. Challenge it, make it better, improve it. Then everything gets better as a result. And don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of challenge. Don't be afraid that someone's kind of going to disagree with you or enhance what you do. It's not an insult. It's not a bad mark. It's actually going to give you a better result.
Yes.
And I think it probably took me too long in life to realize that.
Well said, Ken. Well said. So what's the best piece of advice you have received and from whom?
The best piece of advice. The best piece of advice, and this is probably related to working in a large organization, is to make sure you bring people on the journey with you.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, whether that's the executives in an organization who are going to be making the decisions, or the bid team that you're working with. Don't work in isolation. Communicate well, and make sure that the team are bought into the solutions that you're developing, and make sure that the leadership at the top have bought into it, because it makes life an awful lot easier to get through governance when the people you're reporting to know exactly before it goes in front of them what you're about to say. And I would say that to anybody. It's, if you're in any kind of an organization, bring people on the journey with you. Don't try and walk it alone.
Wow, that's super powerful, Ken. Super powerful. Ken, 30 plus years of successful career in bid and proposals, led and managed APMP body, both UK and international. A beautiful family, lots of friends, interesting path all the way from Northern Ireland to UK. What's next for you, Ken?
What next? Too many people ask that question. I guess I'm fortunate. I'm in my fast approaching my mid-50s now, and I guess career-wise, I've been fortunate enough to kind of come through the ranks. I've done my periods of sitting on boards, as a bid director, as a work winning director. I'm actually now in a position where I can happily not be looking for career moves and career progression. I now just know what I love doing. And what I love doing is being a bid director. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and actually to have that ability to kind of go, I'm not looking for the next step in the ladder. I'm now looking to just get satisfaction out of what I do. So for me, the next whatever number of years I stay in the business and working will be about doing what I do best.
Yeah, that's nice.
And not, yeah. So it's about being happy at what I do, not career progression anymore.
That's beautiful, Ken. I think it's quite interesting that you already are fulfilled in your career, and you are at the aim well, okay, I'm just going to give back more. That's brilliant. I hope we all...
I will keep learning.
100%. Yes, Ken, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining Scribble Talk. Is there anything, any part of your life or career, or is there anything else that you would like to say, Ken, before we close the call?
No, I think you've pretty much captured everything in those questions. Probably taken me unaware in a couple, but hopefully I've fielded all of them.
You did really well, Ken, and super happy to have you at Scribble Talk. Please do continue to inspire everybody around you. I wish you all the good health and happiness. Regards to your family, your colleagues at Balfour Beatty, APMP, and looking forward to APMP UK Awards 2020. And stay safe, stay healthy, stay kind, and look after yourself, Ken. Thanks for joining again.
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic experience, and thank you for asking me to be on. Absolute privilege.
Thank you, Ken.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.